Hey guys, welcome. I have a really powerful testimony for you guys today. This is about a time where God, without a shadow of a doubt, God showed me He was real. And so I'm telling this story to tell you that God will meet you where you're at. God will love you where you're at, and He will be the difference that takes you from where you're at to where you want to be. And this was like the beginning of that for me. I went through a process of, at this point, I had already accepted Jesus into my heart, sought after Him a bit, but my addictions and things, um, my lack of maturity in the Lord, my lack of discipline and discipleship was dragging me the opposite way. So it's like in my heart, God had touched my heart at this point already, but I still needed something deeper. I had to go through a humbling process, to say the least. And I'm still somewhat in that process, but things have got a lot better. And basically, I needed more understanding of who God was, who I am. I just needed more, right? And I needed more humility and reverence towards God as well. And I still do. But where I'm at now and where I was, this was 5 years ago, are night and day. So just to put a little snapshot of where I was at this time, like I had come off the street at this point. I'm coming off the drugs, trying to physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, just beat down from all the stuff I experienced, the life of addiction, bad relationships, failures, having my name ran through the mud, the demonic torment, uh, you name it, just doing things I never thought I'd do. Just the levels of that, and like that's just putting it lightly. I'm just trying to give you a snapshot, but if you guys have watched any of my other videos, I've shared some of the things I've been through. But just broken at this point. There's nothing going well in my life. I can't say that anything was going well. But now I can see this was the breaking process. Like God was just allowing me to be broken, right? And it's just like if you're gonna plant a crop, you first have to break up the ground, right? Without the ground being broken up and the toil in the soil, right? Toil in the soil. The toiling in the soil, and the removing of certain things, like you can't plant the crop. You have to prepare the place for them at first. So that's kind of how I look at this process. So I went through that, and at this point I got into a year-long treatment that I've somewhat committed to. At this point I was in there a couple weeks and still really struggling though, having terrible like demonic nightmares, not sleeping. So when I did sleep, it would be like a couple minutes. I would have terrible nightmares, wake up, and then be up, basically. So at this point, I was up for like 10 days with very, very little sleep, battling the withdrawals and just the weight of all my life, my past life, So I was coming out of that and seeking God. This was a year-long, not just a treatment, but also a discipleship, and a place where I could really learn who God was. This is my aim, right? Because where I was at, I was like, either God's gonna meet me and He's gonna deliver me from this life, or I don't think there's any help for me. That's how deep I was in it. And I knew it was like something in me was just like I need more help than anyone can give me. Like no one can help me unless God helps me. Like that's where I was at. So I was desperate. But again, I have like my flesh and all these things pulling at me. I'm still not all there physically, mentally, spiritually, right? So basically I'm in between my past life and the new life that God offers. And so I'm saying all this to prep for what God gave me. So I was kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and I'm like, I want to do something new, but like this pull is strong, right? To go back to my addiction and what I know. And so I was at this center where I now work, by the way. But I'm there and like I'm like wanting to stay, but I'm wanting to go. And the director of the center was like, "Hey, we're sending a team out to Idaho to work on another center out there." It was one for like teenagers. You know, do you want to be part of that team that goes out there and, you know, does some construction over there? And like I wasn't worth a dang at this point, like work wise, you know, but I think he knew I was like really struggling, and I told him yes, just so I would go out, you know, to another state so I couldn't run. Like if I went out to Idaho, then basically I'm like, okay, that'll give me another week of detoxing and hopefully I'm sleeping better. Hopefully I feel better. And so I ended up going with this team. Stay with me, you guys, because this is a really powerful experience. It's just it takes me a while to set this up because I don't like to shortchange it. There were so many things that God showed me through this. And so anyways, I ended up in Idaho. Like I said, I'm not worth a dang working, but I was there a couple of days, and these days were probably like the worst of me just fiending out for drugs. Like I want to use tobacco, I want like all these things. And then it's like it was like the third day I was there. In the morning I kept getting this image of a music video. A music video that I had watched right when I accepted the Lord. It was like I was getting clean a few months earlier, and that's when like God started moving on me. I accepted the Lord and kicking the drugs, and I'm like seeking Him. And this music video that I was watching, every time I would watch it, it would make me feel good. It was just like, you know, when you're kicking drugs, it's so hard to get like, you know, to feel good doing anything. It's like everything you do is just kind of miserable. Every time I would watch this music video, it would like make me feel good, right? And I had no idea this was the Lord at the time. No idea. But I'm sitting there painting in this image based on this music video, which was a red balloon. It's like this image of this red balloon just kept coming to my mind over and over. Like I'm sitting there working, I'm not thinking about this, and it just keeps happening. So I would push it out and it'd come back. I would push it away, keep working, it would come back. Like 4 or 5 times this happened to finally where I'm like, I stopped what I'm doing. I'm like, why do I keep thinking about this? Like I wasn't thinking about the song, it was just the imagery. And so I'm just like, this is weird. Like I must have fried my brain on all these drugs. And anyways, now I know this was the Lord. He was prepping me for what He was going to show me. So I go to lunch that day. And the other few days I was there, there's nothing, no book on the table. And so I sit down and eat my lunch, and then I look down and there's this book in front of me, and I'm looking at this book. It like catches my eye, and it was called Run Baby Run by Nikki Cruz. And all this stuff, you guys, like there's no way I could tie all this together. Like I'm not that creative. Like this is going to show you that this came from God. All these, just notice all these coincidences and things that come together. So there's this book that's sitting there. I know who the author is. It catches my eye. And the author of this book was one of the people that went through the program that I work at now and that I was going through at the time. So he was one of the first waves of people that came through this program, and how this program started was like, it was gang members in New York City. The preacher, his heart was stirred with compassion for them. So he went to the gangs in New York, and he saw that the gang issue was a lot of times based in drug issues, and what it all boiled down to was like they needed Jesus, right? And so he started this program. David Wilkerson started this program. And Nikki Cruz, the guy who wrote this book that's sitting in front of me, this was his autobiography. So Nikki, he came over to the United States, I think from Puerto Rico, and he started gangbanging, and he rose up in the ranks of this gang, right? To eventually he was either the leader of the gang or the vice president of the gang. It's like one of the biggest, most violent gangs back then. This was like in the 70s or 60s, I can't remember. But so he's in and out of trouble, like he's getting in, people around him are dying, he's in and out of jail, and eventually he gets caught on something very serious, and he's looking at like 25 to life. He's expecting to get it. So he's in jail, and he goes to sentencing. Stay with me. He goes to sentencing, and the judge is like, Nicky, he's like, I don't know why I'm doing this. I feel crazy for giving you this opportunity, but I'm going to give you one chance. He's like, if you don't change, I'm going to send you with this parole officer. If he can't help you and you don't change, like next time I see you, I'm throwing the book at you. And Nicky's like, what's going on here, right? So because he's expecting to get sentenced to life, like, but he experiences grace. So this is his first taste. This is before Nicky knew God, but God had a plan for him, and it says that, I think it's in Proverbs. I can't remember. I should have wrote this down, but it says that the heart of the king is in God's hand, and He steers it like a river. Meaning, God can move on people's hearts, and He can give them a decision, and that's basically what He did for Nicky. So Nicky's like, this is happening. So the judge lets him go, and he leaves the courthouse, and he's just like, he's not planning on changing. He's like, he's going right back to the hood. He's going right back to his gang. But then he started thinking, he's like, what was that? He's like, what? He's like, there's no way I should have got let off. Like he wasn't thinking it was God, but he was like, there's something not normal about it and kind of supernatural. So this is where things start tying in, guys. So Nicky is back in Brooklyn, and he sees this red balloon, right? So all morning I'm getting this image of a red balloon. Help me, Lord. This image of a red balloon that I'm getting while I'm working, and then I go, and there's this book in front of me. I pick it up. I just happen to want to read it. And all this stuff happens, and then there's another red balloon in it. So I'm like kind of like, whoa, I'm seeing like the just ridiculous odds that would happen, you know? So I keep reading, and Nicky sees this balloon, and he's following this balloon around, and he's like, for whatever reason, he's just angry at this balloon. He's like, the way he's thinking is this, he's like, this balloon can go anywhere. It doesn't have to worry about rivals. It doesn't have to worry about what neighborhood it's in, or, you know, cops getting it, arresting it. Like he felt so trapped in who he was, and this balloon looked free to him. So he's like, he's basically following behind this balloon and cursing it. And so as so he thinks this balloon's free, and there's a point to this. This balloon that he's following ends up going into the street, and cop car comes by, zooming by, runs it over, and it pops it. And at that moment, he realized, like, this was like the moment where God started getting to him, and He showed him the illusion of freedom that the world offers. Because Nicky knew at some point, just like that balloon popped, he's gonna pop. Like, he's gonna die one day. But Nicky was following this balloon thinking it was free. Like, he was seeing the illusion that the world offers. So this is deep, you guys. It's going to get really, really deep. So I'm going to try to explain it the best that I can. So Nicky was seeing the illusion, which is life apart from God, being led by Satan. He'll sell you this dream that you can live however you want. You can make your own rules. You can do what you want, go where you want. You know, party, drugs, women, all these things. It's an illusion of freedom because you're actually not free. You're in bondage to death. Or you're in bondage to your sin and to death. And one day you're going to answer for all that you did anyway. So you're not free. It's just like you're on a leash. He gives you an illusion, and there's so many people that are on that illusion. And this is the crazy thing, you guys. So in the book, there's one balloon. The red balloon in the book represents like following Satan. And in the music video that I've been talking about, it's a complete contrast. And I'll put the lyrics and I'll put the music video so you guys can watch this for yourself. Like the whole illustration in the music video, which is not a Christian song, but it's literally like God wrote me a handwritten letter, and this whole music video is prophetic. And that balloon in the music video represents following God, and that's true freedom. Freedom to be who we are, who we truly are. Freedom from sin and freedom from death, right? So you have the illusion versus the real thing. And that's the contrast. Like we either follow Satan or we follow God. There's not two options. There's not more than two options. And this is the crazy thing. So like I'm reading this book, and then I just stop and I'm like, so what's because the music video part, that revelation came a little later, but I just wanted to lay that out. So this is when God made it really clear. I'm sitting there and I'm like, there's no way this is coincidence. I'm like, what's the connection here? And I'm just like thinking, I literally have my eyes closed, just kind of like dumbfounded on like what's going on. Cause like I said, I didn't know this was God right then. It's just like, cause how it was happening was just crazy. And so God literally spoke to my spirit. It was like I felt it so strong in my spirit. He said, look at the lyrics. These are for you. So up until this point, I hadn't thought about the song. How this all started was the imagery from the song in this music video. Like it was all in images at first, but God connected them. And then through the coincidence, he tells me like, okay, now I have your attention. Look at these lyrics. These are for you. Whew. And this is the crazy part, you guys. Man, I hope someone's watching this. This is so powerful. So God tells me to look at the lyrics, and I start thinking about the song. And so let me tell you what the song is called. It's called A Different Way. So where I'm at in life, I'm literally coming out of, the 26 years that I've been living my own way, following the illusion. And now I'm looking for something else, but I'm not quite there yet. Like, at least, like I believe the other way, but I'm not seeing it yet. And so this is God like really showing up for me. So the song is called A Different Way. There's two artists on it. It's DJ Lauv, Lauv. So you have Love and then DJ Snake. So God spoke to me in two balloons. There's two artists on the song called A Different Way, and it's DJ Lauv and DJ Snake. God and Satan, the two balloons, right? One represented in the book, and one represented on the music video. So if you look at the music video, it's like the balloon comes from the sky. This kid's depressed, and this balloon, which represents the Holy Spirit, following God, following Jesus and the Holy Spirit. It's like it captures attention. He grabs hold of this thing and it pulls out his hand, like tells him to get up. And then the rest of the video is like him following this balloon to other people and like spreading joy. It's just crazy. I'm gonna show you guys that, but I want to get into the lyrics because this is already getting pretty long. So these lyrics, like he said, like God told me, he said, look at these lyrics. These are for you. And so I want you to hear these lyrics from the point of view of God speaking to you. But this is what he was telling me. It's from his point of view. So the very first line, he said, notice this, it starts with belief. He says, he's asking a question. He said, could you believe? Right? He says, could you believe that I could be different? So he's asking me a question. He's like, could you believe that everything you know about me is what you've heard about me? He's asking me, could you believe that I can be, better than bigger than you can fathom? Like, this is him introducing himself to me, but he asked me a question. He says, can you believe? And then he says this is a promise, but it's depending on me believing. He says, could you believe that I could be different? I'll be the difference. I'll lift you high. So he's saying, I'm going to be the difference in your life. I'll take you from where you're at to where you want to be. And this is where I'm at in this point, you guys. Like, and I've seen him come through on all these promises. So I know this was God. He's saying, you know you're not where you want to be or where you should be, but I'm going to be the difference, and I'll lift you high. It says, humble yourself under the mighty hand of God, and in due time he will lift you up. That's what it says in the Bible. And then he says this to me. He says, I understand your hesitation. You know, remember how I said I'm like in between? I'm like, I don't know. It was I was hesitant to going all in with God because I'm going to lose everything that I was. Even though it was bad, it was like it was all I knew, right? He says, I understand that hesitation. With my reputation, it's no surprise. So I'm hesitant because I don't know who he is. I'm hesitant because I don't understand who he is. If you understood the things that God has for you and who he is, his nature, his character, his power, his all-knowingness, his, you know, like, if you truly know, you wouldn't be hesitant. You're only hesitant because you doubt. And that's what he's saying. He's like, I understand that hesitation. With my reputation, that's not a surprise. But he's like, basically it's like, okay, so he says that. He's like, I understand all that, but let's get back to the truth. He says, so let me redefine you. So now I'm defined by his love. I'm defined by who he says I am. Not by my mistakes, not by the life that I lived for all these years. Not for who I thought I was. Like, he says, let me redefine you. And you can see the tide move. Like, when the tide moves, there's a visual change, right? And that's what I've seen that. I've seen the tide move. I've seen things that I couldn't overcome move. I've seen mountains shift. I've seen my perspective shift. I've seen my reality shift. I've seen the goodness of God. I've seen him work in other people. I've seen him do miracles. It's like you can see the tide move at a certain point with God. Like, yes, faith is required, but you can see the evidence of your faith all around. You can see the goodness of God all around when you start walking with him. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, yeah, there's an aspect of faith that's like, you know, the evidence not seen, but there's also a very real and tangible experience we have with God where God confirms his word. And it's something like this, like all this stuff just came, like God was just giving this to me. It's like, boom, okay, you're seeking, you're asking, you're knocking, you're after me with your whole heart. Like, you want something different. Yeah, I want that for you too. Like, here's your opportunity. And this is all contingent on me believing in him. Like it says in the first line, could you believe? Like all this comes with through faith and believing him. Ooh, come on, somebody. I hope someone's still watching because someone needs to hear this. This is so powerful. And like I said, I can't make all this up, guys. Like, I'm really not that creative. Okay, so he says, so let me redefine you, and you can see the tide move, just like tears in the eyes do. And when you're feeling alone, oh baby, I'll be right here. So this is another promise. He's like, when you're feeling alone, I'm always with you. The Bible says he'll never leave you nor forsake you. And there's been times where like I've had to stand alone. I've felt alone. Like I've had to give up a lot of things to follow God. I've had to give up, you know, in some respect, everything. But I'll tell you what, I don't regret that decision. It's the best decision I've ever made. God's never left me. God's never forsaken me. And even when I went back to my sin and my drug use and whatever else, it's like God has always drawn me back into repentance with his love and his kindness and his mercy. It's always pulled me back because there's nothing that compares to it. And sometimes we think we can get it in another way. And it's like, now I'm at that point where I'm just like, I'm done fighting it. So he says, oh baby, I'll be right here between the sea and silence. You know, and that's how God was speaking to me. It was powerful, you know, like the sea, but it's silent in a way. It's a still small voice sometimes when God speaks. And then he says this, so breathe easy, my dear, meaning be anxious for nothing. Like, breathe easy. Take heart, take courage, and know that I'm with you. And he says this, you can find sunshine in the rain. Whoo, come on. So this is like, that line was so deep to me, as I'm like, I literally had to go through all the rain. Like, I had to go through that process of being humbled, to see the sun, to see to see the truth of the gospel and the truth of who God is. I had to go through the rain. I had to be humbled. But he's telling me, breathe easy. You can find sunshine in that rain. And I have. Today, I have, like I said, I'm grateful for everything I've been through, all the worst things, the terrible things that have happened to me, God's used. And it says this in Romans 8:28. It says, all things that will work together for those that love God and are called according to his purposes. It's like when we turn our whole self over to God, God uses all our mistakes, our failures, our shortcomings, like the things that we once regret or are ashamed of, and he uses it for his glory and our good. And only God can do that, you guys. And some of these are promises and things that God has fulfilled in my life. And at this time, like, let me tell you this, like, I could not see any of these things. These were all things that I had to believe. Like it says in the first line, I had to believe God for these things. But how he spoke these things to me, I'm like, if God can make all this stuff come together like this and write me a song through a music video I seen, like, it's just like all these things came together. I'm like, this is who God is? Like, that is amazing. Like, God, this is who God is. This is the type of love he has for me to write me a song, like, and to touch on all these fears and things that I'm experiencing. I'm just like, what kind of God is this? Like, and I'm not special. I'm sharing this so you guys can realize, like, these lyrics are not just for me. Like, God's not a respecter of persons. Like, God loves everyone, you know, and God is wanting us to turn from our ways to seek him. Like, we're all stuck in that illusion of freedom, and it's not freedom. So here comes another promise. He says, I will come running when you call my name. Even a broken heart can beat again. Man, how's that? The God of the universe will come when you call his name. And then, so that's a promise. And then he says this, which was touching on a fear that I had. He says, even a broken heart can beat again. Like, I felt so messed up. I thought I've almost, like, went too far, you know, through, like, bad relationships, you know, and just, like, my heart was just broken in a lot of ways. And he's like, there's a verse in Ezekiel, I think it's like Ezekiel 37. I'm not sure, I should have wrote that down too, but he says, I will remove your idols from you. I will sprinkle water on you, and you will be made clean. I will put my spirit within you, and I'll remove from you your heart of stone and give you a heart of flesh, one that's able to follow my laws or my decrees. So God gives us a new heart when we come to him. God removes our stony heart, and he binds up the brokenhearted and the wounds, you know, that we experience when we come to him. So he's telling me, this is another promise. He's like, I know you think your heart is unfixable or you're too broken, but he's saying even a broken heart can beat again. And what I've experienced is, like, God has used that brokenness to help others now, you know, like that breaking apart, that hard soil being broken, like, he's made it beat again and better than it ever has. And then he tells me this, he says, forget about the one who caused you pain. I swear I'll love you in a different way. So he's comparing his love with the love I've experienced. So God's love is not dependent on us. God's love is who he is. It's his nature. So his love is given to us, regardless of how we feel about it. We can't change that, you know. But he says, basically, forget about what you know about love. I'm going to show you what love is. Forget about the one who caused you pain. I swear I'll love you in a different way. And then in the hook it says, or the next verse, It says, I know that love is so unforgiving. So again, he's tying in this idea of like the love we experience. He's saying this to me. He's like, I know that love you've experienced is so unforgiving, and you've been a victim too many times. But I'll be the thread that'll hold you together. I'll be forever. Now will you be mine? So again, he's saying, forget about the love you've experienced. My love's different. The love you've experienced is unforgiving, and you've been a victim of that, but this is who I am. And this is another promise. He says, I'll be the thread that will hold you together. I'll be forever. Now will you be mine? So he's bringing it back to a choice. Like, I'm here standing, like the title of the song is A Different Way. I'm looking for a different way. I'm caught between an illusion and the real thing. Now, this is his invitation. He's telling me all this, giving me these promises, asking me if I can believe, and then says, I'll be forever. I'll be the thread that'll hold you together. Will you be mine? And I'm left with the decision. And I'm like, this is God. This is God speaking to me. So, I feel like there's another verse. I'll be forever, no, will you be mine? So anyways, that's it. But like I said, all those things I couldn't see when God gave them to me, but I've seen him come through on all those promises. Like, God has always been faithful, even when I haven't been. And so the decision always remains with us. Like, God isn't going to force us, but his love goes out to us. And he says, choose this day what you serve, life or death. It's like we can have the illusion that everything's good. We can have the illusion that we don't have to live by God's rules. But one day, just like that balloon, you know, you're going to pop and have to answer to the choice that you made of either living apart from God and living, you know, with him leading. So I'm going to put the lyrics and the music video that you guys can watch, and just like, I just want you to notice, like, from the point of view, that music video of like, think about the balloon being the Holy Spirit and how it relates to the boy. Notice his attitude before the balloon comes. Notice what happens when he interacts with it. Notice how he, how it leads him, in the response other people have to him walking with God. So let me know if you watch this whole thing. I'd be interested. Like, I know this is a long one, but man, yeah, I'm gonna end it with that. I'll see you guys later.